skies from now on. Nothing but blue skies from now on. Thank you.
You've been listening to the TSAS Jazz Combo. Are they incredible? On vocals, meet Taylor Black, a future candidate for The Voice, and also a tenor sax player. Taylor Wade, figure fan. On bass, Connor Murchie, and also on bass, Sam Bergier, and drums, a name we're familiar with, Matthew Teagarden. Son Davis, and on guitar, John Molyneux. And director Mike Sisko. Would you guys like to hear one more tune before they head out? Me too. Take it away. We're going to hear one more, but by the way, I think they hire out. I heard Mama saying that earlier. So, you guys got one more in your pocket for us? You can play something you played before, too. Now you got our attention.
We're gonna do a little song called Fly Me to the Moon. I'm sure a lot of you know it. Fly me to the moon and let me play among the stars. Let me see what spring is like on a Jupiter and Mars. In other words, please be true. In other words, darling, kiss me. Fill my heart with song and let me sing forevermore. You are all I long for, all I worship and adore.
songs that we've heard about love. During the patriotic time following getting a gold medal in the Olympics, I'm sure you felt something with great pride as they stood there with an emotional expression on their face and tears in their eyes as they sang. So today, let's join together with our love and our song for our country. God bless America. Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Actually, I'm not Roger Dunham. Somebody didn't get the memo. I'm Joy Longmire. It is my pleasure to introduce our visitors today. And as usual, if you would please, Rotarians, stand with your guests, and we will hold our applause until all have been introduced. Rotarian Ed Jenkins is hosting Judge David Jenkins and Alex Jenkins today. Jim Kelly is hosting Pat Kendall, and Pat is a realtor with Chenoweth & Cohen. Welcome. Brian Bovaird has several guests with him today. Dr. George Snetzer, who's a retired oncologist, and George's lovely wife, Mary Helen Levine, is also here. They're right here. And also with Brian is Rachel Doss with the Tulsa School of Arts and Sciences. Luann Bullinger's guest today is Chris Payne with Tulsa Public Schools. And Bob Sade has brought his lovely daughter with him, Kim Cook. Alicia Herrera is hosting today Adam Stogner with Manhattan Construction. Welcome. We're so happy that you're here. And we have a few visiting Rotarians today. From Sunrise Rotary, the handsome Mr. Tom Clark. Hi, Tom. Tom's our past district governor. And we have several Rotaract members with us today we're excited about. We have Mindy Strain, Cayenne Camus, Elsie Urhueta, and Amethyst Cavallaro. Welcome, Rotaract members. And one more visiting Rotarian we have today is from the Will Rogers Club, Mr. Phil Keeter. Hi, Phil. We are so happy to have all of our guests today. We do hope that you'll come back and visit again. Thank you.
Thank you, Joy.
Joy, thank you. Okay, our sponsors this week. David Downing with Acrobat Ant, and Monty Curry, Gordon Greer, and Bill Miller with Bank First. We encourage you to do business with your fellow Rotarians. Please thank all of today's sponsors and all our volunteers. Now, committee meetings, Crescendo Music Awards, room 232. And I think you probably saw them out front. It's time to get your tickets. And Board of Directors. We're going to be meeting very shortly, right up here in the front of Thomas Hall, right after the meeting. In other announcements, we had a terrific pre-meeting music by the Tulsa School of Arts and Sciences Jazz Band. We are so grateful that they came here and did such a great job for us. Let's give them another round of applause. Thank you, guys. And this was a week, a group of our members headed south to check on the water well drilling project in Nicaragua. David Peterson, we wish you and your group safe travels, and we look forward to your report. Please extend greetings from us to our project partners in the Metropolitan Rotary Club of Lyon. And I'm glad to see we have Rotaractors here today. Cayenne, thank you. As we mark the anniversary of the founding of Rotary International in 1910, after setting up his law practice in Chicago, a young Paul Harris gathered several business associates to discuss the idea of forming an organization for local professionals. On February 23, 1905, Harris, Gustavus Lair, Sylvester Sheely, and Hiram Shorey gathered at Lair's office in room 711 of the Unity Building in downtown Chicago. This was truly the first Rotary Club meeting. And likewise, I'll call on our members to refer those up-and-coming leaders within your organizations to participate in Rotaract. They will be exposed to all the wonderful service aspects and opportunities for leadership and fellowship that Rotary is known for, while experiencing a lighter schedule that better fits their young professional time commitments. So thank you again, Rotaractors, for being here. We appreciate you. And project announcements, yeah. All right. Mandy, I know you're busy over there trying to eat just a little bit, but we'd love to hear about your Club Foundation grant presentation.
Today, we're going to present a couple of grants. Tony and I are, I think. Our first grant recipient for the Club Foundation grants is the Little Lighthouse. We had a very lovely tour. Dana and I went and toured the Little Lighthouse some time ago, got to see some new expansion plans, and I'd like to introduce Jean Winfrey, who's the executive director there, to tell you a little bit about the funds we gave to them.
Thank you so much for asking me to come today. We have been so privileged to partner with you all over decades, and as I was looking back at all you've done, I just want to say thank you. This recent grant went to provide funding for some what we call PAL chairs, and these chairs actually serve as PALs to the kids. They adjust with their legs and their back and their feet and their seats, and with the trays that attach, there's all sorts of accessories that come with them that allows the children to be more attentive. Some of the chairs you can put the rockers on, and for children with sensory challenges that need to be in motion, it helps them to keep their attention span and they're not as distracted. We also were able to purchase some wheelchair mounts for iPads. You'll recall one of your last grants helped us to buy iPads for every classroom, and the mounts are helping the children be more effective in their selections. We purchased a scanner that when the children come into the gym, they can real quickly communicate to our staff what they choose to do in the gym instead of us just putting them on a tricycle or putting them in a swing. They can tell us what they want to do. So we have really appreciated your support. It has gone a long way, and the children are really able to accomplish so much more with the items that we bought this time. So thank you so much.
I just so admire what you do at Little Lighthouse. Thank you. And Tony Oliva.
All right, so on behalf of the Grants Foundation Committee, Dana Burks and I visited the Prevent Blindness of Oklahoma a few months ago, and there we met Brendan Miller and Diana Bonfiglio, and we recommended the grant be approved in the amount of $10,000, and Diana is going to tell you a little bit about how it's being used.
Thank you again. We tremendously appreciate the generosity of the Tulsa Rotary Club. We did go out and purchase the camera, and with that, we have a testimonial of one of our first children that we screened with the spot camera.
Okay, so my name is Alicia Allen, and I'm a certified vision screener and program administrator for Prevent Blindness Oklahoma.
Okay, my name is Ashley Spence. My son is Phoenix, and he's about 2.5 years old. And when he was about maybe 4 or 5 months old, we noticed that his eyes were kind of turning in a little bit. They weren't exactly going the right direction.
We need to get Phoenix in. I know that he's got a problem this will be a great opportunity to get some practice for us. And he was our first child that we screened with the camera.
Kept asking the pediatrician about it, and the pediatrician kept reassuring me that by a year that the problem would naturally go away. And so I really wasn't concerned until my sister said, we need to screen him. You know, even though he's only a few months old, she said, that's not normal.
We brought Phoenix in and we were like, okay, he's our first kid, you know, how is this gonna work? And it was just instantaneous, and the screen, as soon as it kind of grabbed the picture, the screen just blew up in red with all of these things that we noticed were wrong with him. We're like, wow, it's not just one eye, it's both eyes.
So she referred me to an eye doctor. He immediately noticed the issue, and he said, no, this is not normal. It's not gonna get better on its own. And so we did glasses. He was pretty much guaranteed to go blind by the time he was a teenager if we weren't able to fix it. After about 6 months of doing glasses, he didn't see any improvements at all. So he referred us to a specialist, and the specialist immediately said we need to do surgery. He did have a surgery in, I believe it was September of last year, and immediately his eyes were better. He's seeing straighter, he's developing a lot quicker than we noticed before. He can do a lot more hands and eye coordination. He's just developing beautifully. And now, because of Prevent Blindness Oklahoma and my sister noticing that, now my child is going to be able to see the rest of his life, and we don't have a chance of him going blind. We're very blessed for that. It's not something you want to hear, that your baby might go blind as an adult, and you know, that's really hard to take in. And having my sister there with me, reassuring me that she's had tons of people she's known that have done surgeries, that she's seen lots of eye issues, she knows it would get better, that just made it that much easier for me to deal with. It's definitely a blessing to have her and to have Prevent Blindness Oklahoma pretty much save my son's life.
And special thanks goes out to the Tulsa Rotary Club for providing us with a grant to purchase another camera for that area. We are excited to be able to reach the daycare centers that we have not yet been able to reach. Thank you for your support and helping us in our goal, reaching our 50th anniversary.
Thank you all again, and you can see the impact that this camera will make on young children's lives and the future of our generation of our times. Thank you.
Marty, I'm trying to practice my moves as a goalie. Will it help?
It is my being. Providing eye care, treating glaucoma, preventing blindness has become so part of the fabric of me. It's all I know how to do. It's like breathing to me now.
I've received many hugs and tears of joy when you're able to share with the patient that, hey, look, we've got this under control. You're going to be able to keep your vision.
Area-wide Rotarians in the Tulsa Oiler Hockey, $17 per person, and this is a great event, and I hope we can support our fellow Rotarian clubs. Also, is Jack Haas here? No, that is one lucky guy. He is the only man who is registered for our trip, our one-day trip, March 25th to Oklahoma City, and he is going to be accompanied by a powerhouse of Tulsa's most influential Rotarian women who have come to the plate and are eagerly awaiting an exciting day trip to Oklahoma City. So I encourage you other guys to join in. This is March 25th. This occurs only every other year. So you have like a once, 5 times in a decade opportunity to do this. So it's a full day experience, but the Devon building is probably one of our big draws. Don't tell Oklahoma City Rotary Club that. I encourage you to sign up, sign off, and again, you can see me after the club, and I'll help you sign up. I'll get on and actually register you, and more later.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Marty. Richard Gibbs, you've been busy. He's been set up out front. He's seeking your dollars for tickets.
Where are all you music lovers? Now, last week I told you to listen up, because just what Sarge would say, the good seats will start going if you don't sign up and get your tickets right now. There's a form on the table. There are forms out at the table outside. If you do sign up, don't leave your form on the table. Bring it to me outside. just for your information, some of the students that'll be performing are from Juilliard, the New England Conservatory of Music, Eastman School, Manhattan School of Music, the Royal Conservatory of Music in Toronto, Canada. And the voice, that's mostly piano. And the voice part, last year, all of them from Oklahoma seemed to win, beat out the people from the large name school. But we have TCU, Juilliard, Boston University, OU, OSU, OCU that are taking part in the voice part of it. You will not find better musical entertainment anywhere in Oklahoma than at the Crescendo Music Awards. So come.
Thank you, Richard. And I can't say enough about the hard work of the Crescendo Committee in pulling off this event, so thank you to one and all working on that. Brian Vovard, talk about a hard-working committee, Camp Enterprise.
I wanted to take a little of Marty's approach and offer you something exciting for the 37th annual Camp Enterprise, which is just over a month away. So we have 1-day travel plans, 2-day travel options, 3-day travel options, and 4-day travel options to beautiful Avant, Oklahoma, to be a part of our 37th annual Camp Enterprise. 3 points I want to make today. And I love the fact our banner are the first 2 points. Just change the last part to Rotarians. We need to engage Rotarians. You all need to come out and have some fun and get a little messy with these kids. President Karen said, show pictures of Rotarians and what the kids do at Camp Enterprise. The first thing, and I just skipped it, Avant, Oklahoma. I Googled this. It's only 37 minutes north. And unlike Camp Heart of the Hills, which if you arrived at late at night, you probably weren't going to find the camp. You just head north. So please, my third point is standing next to me or sitting next to me, but we need to engage Rotarians. The second one, change lives. These kids are amazing. I just did a presentation at Charles Page this morning. The librarian came up to me and she goes, I attended Camp Enterprise, and we were polite and didn't ask how long ago. But we find more and more people over 37 years. Sanjay Mesri, who was one of our speakers, said, my wife went to Camp Enterprise. Jeff Davis from U.S. Beef Corporation was closing a bank loan up in Kansas City. The bank officer across looked at him and said, you spoke when I went to Camp Enterprise down in Tulsa. Camp Enterprise changes lives. So I need to engage Rotarians. I need more people on our committee and volunteers. And then please help change lives. And our volunteer committee chair is Sean Raines.
Hi, I can't seem to come up here without a chaperone. It's been Brian, then it's Marty. But probably because I don't behave. Real quick, what I'm in charge of is soliciting about 25 people that will help in some capacity with Camp Enterprise. That can be a 1 or 2 day commitment. It can be a 4-day commitment. It can be an isolated piece of an event that you help with, like steak night or something like that. But what we really need are counselors. I'm going to appeal to you from 3 different senses. I'm with the Muzan-Big 3-point guy. Now, I have to read my palm to do this. Number 1, I'm going to appeal to your sense of guilt. Camp Enterprise is a major, major commitment. And 85% of those commitments have already been made. But if we don't have camp counselors, we can't have a camp. So I'm going to try to guilt you into signing up for Camp Enterprise to be a counselor, because we've already sailed the ship. We need to find the people to row the boat. Number 2 is our duty and responsibility to these junior students. When Jimmy Sade founded this concept, I don't know that he would even know how much it would endure and how important it would be 38 years later. These kids do not get an education on business. They do not get the exposure to business people like us. And the environment that we live in, more than ever, needs to have that sense of patriotism and that sense of duty and responsibility to your country. Number 3, I'm going to encourage you. You need this 4-day trip. You are too busy. You are too stressed. You have too much stuff at home. You need a 4-day vacation. So please sign up for Camp Enterprise. Your sign-ups are on the table. It has 4 ugly guys' pictures on it. You just write down your name, your contact information. If you don't know Camp Enterprise, the beautiful thing about Rotary is half the people in this room were new 2 years ago. So look at the person next to you that has no concept what Camp Enterprise was, and if you've participated, either you sign up because you know how great it is, or you tell the person next to you how great it is. And I appreciate it, and I expect 50 names. Thank you.
Thank you, John. And Brent Blackstock with another great opportunity for you to engage.
Fireside meetings are coming up. We're going to do them the week of April 14th, just like we did last year. We are campaigning for host Rotarians. Anyone who's willing, get in touch with us. It's an opportunity to go out and buy all the food that you really want to eat, but you kind of feel guilty about buying. Just buy extra. That way you get to eat it when they don't finish it up. Those calories are all deductible. You don't have to count them. If you've ever seen a fat, an accountant, they're all thin. That's why. They figured this out. So sign up, and we'll have a great bunch of fireside meetings.
Thank you, Brent. And Eric, while we're going through the Sergeant Arms, would you mind bringing the remote clicker up here for Eric? Thank you. All right, Sarge is having a little health issue. You know how she's always smiling? She's not smiling that much right now. She's got some kidney stones. So I'm going to fill in, and I'm not nearly as funny as Janet, but I'm going to try. So let's let her roll. Thank you very much, Jerry. Here we go. David Downing, Acrobat Ant. When you see that bus with Woody Guthrie on the side, that was Acrobat Ant that did that, and they were featured in the Tulsa World. And Barney James took home the whole front page of the Local. How many of you saw that? Barney, we need some money for that one, buddy. That's worth a lot. Roberta Preston, the Juliet Low Leadership Society, featured in the newspaper. I know she's right back there. Thank you, Roberta. And John Stava, nice big picture of John talking about the Thunderbird Youth Academy. Isn't that, a sweet picture? I mean, you know when you can capture it online and it looks good and it's not fuzzy, it's a big picture. So, nice. And a bunch of us got caught at a groundbreaking. There's Mike Neal, Mayor Bartlett, and myself. And if you saw that photo, I'm acting like a goof because somebody said, Jeff is on your hat. And I pulled it down. I go, Anyway, and that's when they snapped the shot. It was very nice. And Kathy Gorell, fined for $117, celebrating her birthday, anniversary, years in Rotary, et cetera, et cetera. Thank you, Kathy. And Tom Wolf, $75, doing a One Oak matching grant for Crescendo. Richard, that should make you happy. Let's hear it for Tom. And Matt Davis and his famous kids. All right, here's $50, bragging rights. Matthew, his son, and his wife Meredith won a $20,000 cruise on Wheel of Fortune. Too cool. Let's hear it for Matt. All right, and those are all of our fines for today. Thank you all very much. And now our Rotarian of the Day is Paula Wood, and she joined our club in December of 2010. Paula works for Tulsa Public Schools. She's Keith Ballard's right-hand woman, and she's also a Paul Harris Fellow and a fellow member of my book club. Please welcome our Rotarian of the Day, Paula Wood.
Well, thank you, President Keith. I'm honored to be able to present to you today, Eric Doss. I have to tell you, I had this great speech written, and so I had to rewrite it just now, so I'm going to try my best to remember all the little things I wanted to say. But so Eric Doss is the current director of Tulsa Schools for Arts and Sciences. He, prior to this, was a principal, and so he told me just now that, and this is kind of an interesting thing, that there was so much work to do that they had to split it off the minute that he became the director. So we're happy for you at this point, Eric. So TSAS is a charter school, and you'll be hearing a little bit more from Eric about that partnership with Tulsa Public Schools and a new charter compact. So let me just tell you a little bit about Eric. He got his bachelor's degree from the Southwestern Oklahoma State University in Weatherford, his master's degree at OU Tulsa. He has 2 children, one a sophomore at TSAS and one at Carnegie, and you've met his lovely wife Rachel, who's also a teacher at TSAS. And so Eric, you know, he has been a band teacher, actually a jazz band teacher for quite some time. And to keep his roots fresh and alive, he is actually plays in the Tulsa Metro Pipe Band. So that's his claim to fame. And also he's on the board of the fantastic, he says, Camerata. So we're also happy about that. He said that really what changed his life was a half day at McLean High School when he was in high school. He graduated from medicine. That was the turning point. They had such a fabulous jazz program at McLean that was the turning point. He became a band teacher, and look where he is today. So we're thankful for that public school experience for sure. And I just want to say that a couple weeks ago we heard from the director of the Woody Guthrie Museum. And, you know, so much of what she had to say had to do with children and the diversity and that experience of coming together. And so much of that is what we do in for children. Anti-bullying, just embracing everything about a student. And I will tell you, and Eric doesn't remember this, I'm sure, but when they were in need of a school location, we went on a very freezing cold tour of Roosevelt, one of our schools that had been surplus during Project Schoolhouse. And all the way through the building, Eric would say, well, I don't know if this would be good for students. Well, I don't know if this cafeteria is large enough for students. Well, I don't know if this would be accommodating for students. The entire time, Eric, you don't remember this, but it was all about the students. And, you know, isn't that the way it is? We are so thrilled today that no matter if it's private or public or charter or virtual, it really is about the students, and it's a pleasure again to introduce Eric Doss.
Well, thank you, Paula. I really want to say thanks to just the Rotary Club for having me out. Norm Simon asked me to do this several months ago, and I was just so excited to get the chance. I want to say thanks to Karen Keith and Paula and just everybody for having me out, because I'm so excited to come and talk today. This is actually the second time I've addressed the club. I was here doing that speech a couple of years ago when we got a grant from the foundation to help with our environmental studies program. And I think they gave me a minute that time, so they gave me a little more time this time. So, and I also want to thank our jazz combo for coming out. Our director, Mr. Cisco, is doing a great job with them, and so I'm just excited to be able to do that. And I'm also really lucky to have just a fantastic principal. She mentioned that we split that position into 2 so that I can go out and speak to people while she deals with kids all day. So her name's Lisa Smith, and I wanted to thank her, even though she won't be able to look up from the kids to hear anything about it. So I am the director of the Tulsa School of Arts and Sciences. I've done that job for the past 3 years. This is actually my 12th year at the school. And the way I ended up at the school was I had come to Tulsa, and I had a lot of experience teaching in large districts in Texas and then here in Tulsa. And what I saw teaching in those districts was a real need for relevant local decision making at the school level. And I became really interested in this brand new thing that was happening in Oklahoma in 2001, which was the charter schools movement. And so I went to the school, I got interested in the school, I got interested in my wife at the school. She wasn't my wife at the time, so there were several interests, is what I'm saying. And but I definitely was very interested in what they were doing, and I convinced the director at the time, who is one of the founders and still at the school, Dr. Suzanne Lee, and I convinced her to hire me part-time as a jazz band director. And so over the years, I've taken on more and more responsibility, and now I oversee the entire school, but I'm very excited to talk to you about that charter school movement that was what drew me in really from the very beginning. So I'd like to talk a little bit about charter schools, give you a little history, what's going on in the movement, or what they even are, and what is a charter school, and then also talk about more specifically what's happening in Oklahoma and Tulsa. Charter schools are very much a state-by-state entity, and so talking a little bit about what's going on here, I think it's very timely. So the basics of charter schools are independently operated public schools. They take students without selective criteria. They create choice in the marketplace of schools, and they're freed from some state rules and regulations in exchange for an increased financial and academic accountability. So those are kind of the four basics of what's happening with charters. The purpose of allowing these schools initially was to create a laboratory for innovation that will allow the application of new ideas that, if they work in a charter school, can spread out to other public schools. They also create competition in that marketplace, and they can cause traditional public schools to change through those laws of supply and demand, in this case, of student supply and demand. Some of those innovations you see at charter schools are things like longer school days, or a special curriculum, or specific focuses like math and science or the arts. In our case, we're a liberal arts college prep school specifically. In many ways, I think of charter schools like Silicon Valley startups, but in an educational context. And they allow for a really entrepreneurial experience that a lot of public school teachers and administrators aren't allowed to have. Each of the 42 states that allow charter schools has different rules about who can run charter schools and who can oversee or authorize them. In Oklahoma, only nonprofits can run a school, and local school districts, as well as public universities, technical schools, and Native American tribes can allow schools to exist, but only in certain cases. So it has to do with the size of your county, or it also has to do with whether or not your schools are on certain lists. So I want to stress that even with all this innovation, charter schools are public schools. They cannot be religious in nature. They don't discriminate. And being public, they don't charge tuition. And instead, we receive public funding. In Oklahoma, the schools receive a per pupil allocation, just like any other public school, minus an administrative fee of up to 5% that stays with the authorizer. In addition, the schools can receive federal funds. That could be Title I, which is for at-risk students, Title II, which is for teacher development, special ed money, or child nutrition money, which is the free lunch programs. The only funds, the charter schools don't get local funds. So the ad valorem taxes that are paid to traditional public schools, that doesn't funnel in. There's a little bit of offset with the state funds. It's very complicated, but so they don't receive that. And they can't take out any bonds or go into debt. And that's a major problem, because that's where public schools are able to pay for their facilities. And so as a result, charter schools nationwide have a facility problem. Some states have allocated extra money towards facilities, or they've figured out ways to do building funds that allow for the schools to build those facilities. But in Oklahoma, we haven't yet gotten there yet. We're not doing that yet. I said earlier, charters are non-selective as well. It cannot have selection criteria. Most charter schools, though, do have a cap on the number of students that they can take. Ours is 300. When they reach too many applicants, by law, they have to choose students with a lottery. This is a difference between charters and magnet schools. So magnets are part of a district, and so they can have selection criteria, whether it be grade point average or tests, or really a whole litany of things. But charter schools, by law, if they have extra students, they have to do a random lottery. We just did our lottery last week. I had a box. It was really a trash can. But anyway, and we were, okay, and we pulled names out of that, and that's exactly how we picked our students. And so charter schools don't pick their students pick them. And that power of choice is what makes charter schools work. Oh, big word, okay. The power of this arrangement, what that does, it means that students are able to choose the best school for their needs. They open up a marketplace for educational ideas, and specifically for students that a lot of times haven't had that choice. We know that students with means have always had choice. If you're going to a school and it's not the school that's going to work for you in your neighborhood, you can move. You can move to a different district. A student of means could go to a private school, Or they could even stay home. A parent could stay home and they could educate that child. But there are a lot of students who have never been able to have that choice. And the point of charter schools is to start allowing more and more people to have the choice to move around. Tulsa's a little different. We've had a lot of choice here in Tulsa, and without charter schools, we still have choice. But this is a new and different way to do that. And again, Dr. Ballard likes to call it a portfolio of schools, and the charter schools are part of that portfolio. I think I have autonomy, yeah. So as part of the charter school laws, the schools are given a little bit of freedom from some requirements. In Oklahoma, that includes certification of teachers, tenure of teachers as well. And then we're also given some autonomy to choose the curriculum that is best for our students and what works for our students. In exchange for that autonomy, the schools have the same accreditation requirements that from the state and the federal government. Our students have to take OCCT and EOI, which are the end of instruction tests that students have to pass in order to move to the next grade, or at this point to graduate from high school. Our students take all of those same tests. But we also have added layers of accountability in our authorizer, and then we have a local board. In our contract with our authorizer, reporting requirements are spelled out, and there's a renewal period, typically every 3 to 5 years. During that time, if the school is not living up to their agreement, the contract's not renewed. And charter schools do close. Over the past, since 1992, about 15% of all charter schools have closed. Many for financial reasons, but also for academic reasons. And we could say that this is a bad sign, but in reality, it's a symbol that what we've planning on doing with these schools actually is working. That the schools are given that autonomy to try to make it work, and if they can't do that, they are closed. It's one of the biggest mind shifts when you start thinking about traditional public schools and you talk about charter schools. Traditional public schools can be academically ineffective for generations and never close. And that doesn't happen with charter schools. If a charter school is not living up to what it's supposed to do, it does close. In addition to this, charter schools also have local governing boards. I have some of my board members here. Brian Bovard, who already came up and bent your ear about Camp Enterprise, is our president of our board. George Schnetzer is another one of our board members. We have local governing boards that help make decisions that are specific to that school, to that community, to those kids that are in that building. And I think that's incredibly important. Instead of a school board that oversees 10 or 100 schools, this board oversees a small community and makes sure that the dollars are being spent to educate those kids in the best way possible. Okay, a little history on charter schools. In 1991, a law passed in Minnesota, and 5 charter schools opened their door. And shortly after that, people started being interested in what was going on in Minnesota, and laws started passing all over the country. Today, more than 6,000 charter schools exist in 42 states and Washington, D.C. They have a combined enrollment of just over 2.5 million students. That's about 5% of the total school population in the United States. In Detroit and in Washington, D.C., 40% of the students are now going to charter schools. And in New Orleans, which rebuilt its public school system after Hurricane Katrina, 79% of the students in New Orleans are going to charter schools now. So charter schools have a huge presence in New Orleans. A majority of the charter schools are a single school, but over the year charter networks have developed, and either to kind of spread the back-end costs around, or on the other hand, to take a working model and to move it like a franchise from place to place. That's what you see with the KIPP School or Lighthouse here in Tulsa. This is one of the places where I get frustrated, is to hear that charter schools are a privatization of education. There are, in some states, companies that run charter schools. But the vast majority of charter schools are small schools like us, run by a nonprofit, run by hardworking, idealistic people that are really trying to just spend their resources on educating students. Now, one of the early fears is that affluent and high-performing kids would be lured away to the schools, and what would be left was all the students that are harder to educate. But as charter schools grew, schools like KIPP came onto the scene, and what those schools are doing was they were intentionally focusing on at-risk students. And so now you see that nationwide, about 50% of the students in the charter schools around the country are on free or reduced lunch. That's versus about 47% just on average. And so now the question is, how are the schools performing? So across the country, we see charter schools are performing on average as well or better than most of the traditional public schools. It's hard to do this test because charter schools are not one type of school. They're not, everyone is different. And so you have to compare apples to apples, and you usually do that by looking at the neighborhood around them. The CREDO results, which is I'll have to read it, Center for Research on Educational Outcomes. I don't know where the D came from. Oh, I guess the education, whatever. That study at Stanford, they found 56% of the schools were doing as well as the neighborhood schools around them, but 25% were significantly better than if they were going to the school next door. Another study in 2009 by Carolyn Hawksby, which is kind of the gold standard study, they looked at students who were lotteried in and didn't make through the lottery at New York City schools. And what they found was, by 8th grade, those students that were passed through the lottery were doing about 30 points higher on the state math tests. So we see that there's a lot of, we're doing this really well. And charter schools are doing this, again, on the same funds that any other public school is doing it on, and actually less because most of them are paying rent. Most of them are having to spend more money rather than less. So in Oklahoma, we passed the Charter School Act in 1999. We currently have 23 brick and mortar charter schools, 15 in Oklahoma City, 7 in Tulsa, and 1 in Tahlequah that's sponsored by the Cherokee Nation. We also have 2 virtual charter schools that service the entire state. And I do want to say virtual charter schools now exist under a separate board. They don't have local authorizers. They are really a different entity. So when I'm talking about charter schools, I'm not necessarily talking always about the virtual charters. We have the same name, but we're a little bit different. In Tulsa, we have 4 charter schools authorized by Langston University. That's Deborah Brown, which is downtown here. They have an elementary and a middle school. We also have the Dove and Discovery schools. Tulsa Public Schools, though, authorizes 3 schools. Lighthouse, which is an elementary in far north Tulsa, what used to be the Greeley Elementary School. KIPP, which is a 5 through 8 middle school right by Booker T. Washington, and of course, TSAS. You'll notice we have about half the number of charter schools as Oklahoma City. Tulsa Public Schools had a mixed history with charter schools, including a little lawsuit with the state. But however, they now do sponsor 3 schools, and in the past years, we have made some incredible strides. Tulsa Public Schools, 2 years ago, created a compact. And the compact is just a description of the relationship between the charter schools and the traditional public schools and how we'll work together for the future. When they'll open new schools, how we'll work together, how we'll share the development. We revised that compact this year with even now that some of the new schools were in operation. And one of the really neat things is, because that was such a new and unusual thing, the Gates Foundation gave TPS a $100,000 grant just to help implement that compact. And so I think what we're seeing in Tulsa is, rather than having schools that compete for scarce resources and fight against each other, what we now have is a real partnership. I think I mentioned earlier, Dr. Ballard likes to call it a portfolio of schools. And we really feel that we are just a larger part of something that's bigger. We still are autonomous, or mostly autonomous, but we're no longer, we are no longer just out in the wilderness kind of doing our own thing and with no help at all. So I have to talk a little bit about the Tulsa School of Arts and Sciences, because if I don't, I get fired by my board members who are in the audience. So we started in 2001. We were one of the earliest charter schools in Tulsa and even in Oklahoma. We were started by a group of 4 teachers that were sitting around a kitchen table during an ice storm. And those teachers wanted to develop a different type of high school. And they wanted to base it off of the liberal arts universities, the kind of small liberal arts universities like TU and many of the others that we have around. They wanted to focus on having small class sizes, a very knowledgeable and professional teaching staff, a great arts program, more time in class, and just a general focus on deeply learning, not just bubbling in answers on a test. So we created this small, respectful community with a quirky group of about 80 or 100 students in a rented office building at 51st and Yale, and we stayed there for 11 years, kind of developing this program quietly under the radar. Our biggest struggle, though, was funding our facilities. We were paying $250,000 a year for a facility that is less than half the size of the facility we're in now. That meant, that coupled with our personnel costs, it's very expensive to have small class sizes because you have to hire lots of teachers to have small class sizes. And the more kids you have, the more teachers you have to hire. So it really was affecting us, and we were either going to have to change our model or do something different. So last year we moved to the beautiful Barnard Elementary School, and most of you know that building was destroyed in a fire and took nearly everything we owned. I think it was funny you mentioned us touring some of those buildings. We thought so much about what building we were going to be in, and then during the fire, Dr. Ballard said, "Let's go to Sequoia. You want it?" Yes. Okay, that was it. We'd spent, 2 years deciding what building we were going to move in, and I think I did it in about 30 seconds. Okay, yes, it looks like it has walls. We will take it. I'm happy to report that even with that tragedy, our school is persevered and doing better than ever. Thanks to our partners at TPS, especially Dr. Ballard, we moved into the new building the day after the fire, and we never once let that damper the great education that we give our students. The class of 2013 had a cumulative ACT score of 23.9, much higher than the state average. We received an A on our state report card last year, and we had the highest overall value-added score for a high school in Tulsa, public high school in Tulsa. Thank you. And we do that with average students, too, students that come from all over Tulsa, every zip code in Tulsa. Our freshman class this year had a student from every single one of the middle schools but one. We have private school students, we have virtual students, we have homeschool students, we have unschooled students. We have a little bit of everything. We have students that come from high poverty areas of town, about 30% of our students on free or reduced lunch. And we have students that come from Holland Hall and from Cascia Hall, all the halls. Last week we conducted our lottery. We had 185 applicants for 86 positions. And currently our freshman waiting list has 65 students that are still interested in there. There's a desire for the type of school that we offer. So I'm going to finish up. Charter schools can achieve success because of our ability to make these local decisions that directly affect our students and to allocate resources to the problem that we see on a daily basis. We believe in innovation and allowing that autonomy to move into the classroom. And because even the charter schools are hampered by the same issues all public schools are affected by, funding, burdensome testing, etc. With the freedom to make choices at a local level and knowing that we are accountable for the results, I believe that we really can make a difference for a great many kids. If you're interested in what we do, I think I'm supposed to click a few more times. If you're interested, that's the picture of the school. If you're interested in what we do, this is my contact information. Feel free to get in contact with me. I love emails. I answer the phone sometimes. I know that all of the schools in Tulsa are always looking for board members and people to help them make decisions about the future of their kids. They're always looking for supporters. They're always just looking for friends. And so if you're interested in TSAS or any of the other charter schools in Tulsa, feel free to get in contact with me. And if you have any questions, I'm supposed to say I would love to answer any. So if I can answer any questions, I'd like that. I know we're out of time. Thank you very much. Any questions? Okay. Thank you.
However, they are from kindergarten through third grade. They're in a Tulsa public school setting. I love the charter school system. That's where I'm from. That's predominant back there.
Mm-hmm.
Any kind of charter school scenarios that you would see in the earlier developed stages that are going to be brought to the forefront of Tulsa.
Yeah, well, I know currently right now in Tulsa, you could actually go straight through in charter schools. There are 2 elementaries that start, I think, in the K. There are several that work into the middle school areas, and both TSAS and as well as Dove have some high school components as well. I know that there are other people out there who are interested in starting charter schools. It's a huge amount of work, and it's very hard, and sometimes I discourage almost every person that comes in by saying, do you know how much money the state gives? It's $4,000 roughly a student. Can you make this work? And then we start doing the math. It's very hard to do, but there are people who are looking at it. I know that they are working already with Tulsa Public Schools and to be more partners to this compact. So I know that in a few years, I think there will be more schools that open. There are options outside of Tulsa Public Schools, but I don't think otherwise other authorizers are really going to step in. One of the biggest problems for charter schools, again, I mentioned, is facilities. And if you're trying to start a school, if you're trying to start a school on the amount of money that the state is giving, it's very hard without the support of like the district and having a school that you can rent for. We rent it for like 5 cents a square foot. None of you guys that work in real estate are going to do that, right? And so it's really hard to get a building with that. But I think there are people who are just crazy enough to try it and are working on it right now. So I think that there will be more as time goes on. Okay. Thank you guys very much. Thank you to everybody for having me here.
Wow, I learned a lot. And I do know that Keith Ballard is so much more supportive of charter schools than he was. He's seen some very good success. And so it's going to be interesting to watch how that develops. We do have a book, and it says Rufus Goes to TSAS. And Eric, I'd love for you to sign that if you would. And this will go to Celia Clinton, our adoptive school. So, yes, thank you so much. Great job. Really appreciate you. Upcoming program. Rabbi Fitzerman will be here next week, and if you've never heard the Rabbi, he's an incredible speaker, and he's going to talk about mental illness and the faith community, so it should be very interesting because it is definitely something that we all need to tackle and deal with. And then March 12th, LaDonna Osborne will be talking about International Women's Day. And this week's Mystery Rotarian. I know you can't wait. Take a close look at this 2-year-old wearing pretty cool cowboy boots and sitting out on the spacious lawn enjoying the view. Now, can anybody guess who this is? Any guesses? Nope. All right. Well, he still enjoys a great view all these years later. There he is at Niagara Falls. Gordon Greer is our mystery Rotarian. And I thank you, Gordon Greer's wife, Nancy, for getting the photos to me. So safe journey to the judge and Brenda and et al. Who's going to Nicaragua. We'll be anxious to hear what happens when we come back. And with that, I will close this meeting. Thank you. See you next week.